Sorry, sir, I can't play ball. That's all the disabled alien girl whispered, just seconds before the ball in her hand started ticking like a heartbeat. The human mechanic froze, not because she was glowing, injured, or barely able to stand. Evan Hale had seen strange things during his years repairing half-broken machines on New Terra, but nothing prepared him for the sight outside Hangar Gate 3 that morning. The colony was barely waking up, metal shutters clanking open, vents coughing out stale air, when he spotted a small figure standing alone near the silent landing pad. She looked impossibly fragile against the rusted landscape. Silvery white hair drifted around her face like threads of mist, and her thin legs trembled as if each breath cost her effort. But the thing that caught Evan's eye wasn't her condition. It was the glowing sphere cradled between her palms, pulsing softly like a sleeping creature. Sorry, sir. I can't play ball, she repeated quietly, as if afraid the wind might steal her voice. Evan was still replaying the ticking sound he'd heard seconds earlier. It wasn't the noise of a toy. It was the rhythmic, dangerous click of something built for destruction. He swallowed hard and stepped closer, hands raised, moving slowly as if approaching a frightened animal. Hey, hey! I'm not asking you to, he said. Are you hurt? She tried to shake her head, but her legs buckled. Evan caught her instinctively. Her body was warm. Too warm, like she was burning energy faster than she could produce it. She winced, clutching the glowing sphere tighter to her chest. I shouldn't be here, she whispered. I wasn't meant to leave my chamber. Her voice carried a strange echo, like two tones speaking at once, alien, but soft, young, afraid. Evan eased her down onto a crate, taking care not to touch the sphere. Even from inches away, he could feel its energy humming like a contained storm. What's your name? He asked gently. Lyra, she breathed. And this? She glanced at the sphere, eyes tightening. This isn't a ball. It's alive and it's angry. Evan blinked. Alive? Lyra nodded weakly. It absorbs emotions. Someone filled it with rage. If we don't calm it, it will tear this colony apart. A chill raced down Evan's spine. He wasn't trained for alien tech or emotional explosives. He fixed air purifiers and food dispensers, not living bombs. But Lyra looked at him with quiet desperation, her voice trembling as she said, You're human, you can't feel what it feels. I can, and it's getting worse. Something inside Evan tightened. She wasn't a threat. She was a warning, and she'd come to him because she had no one else. Evan pushed open the door to his workshop with his shoulder, still supporting Lyra's weight as she leaned against him. The familiar scent of ozone and hot metal hit him immediately. Something between burnt circuits and last night's welding job. Tools were scattered everywhere. A half-disassembled drone hung from the ceiling, and a stubborn toaster blinked angrily on the counter as if offended by their entrance. Lyra's gaze drifted across the room, wide and curious despite her exhaustion. It's noisy, she murmured. It looks worse than it is, Evan said. Mostly. She didn't answer. Instead, her attention fixed on the toaster. It's upset. Evan paused mid-step. The toaster? She nodded. It hates being ignored. He blinked at her, then sighed. Great. Even my appliances have feelings. A tiny smile ghosted across her lips. Small but real. For a moment, she didn't seem like a girl carrying a living weapon. She just seemed young. Evan gently lowered her onto a padded stool. Her breath shuddered. Up close, he could see faint cracks of light along her neck, like veins glowing under stress. That thing you're holding, he said quietly, nodding toward the sphere. You called it alive. What does that mean? Lyra rested her fingers on the surface, and the sphere brightened at her touch. It's called a Varel core, she explained. My people use them for energy. They bond to emotions the way plants follow sunlight. She swallowed. This one has been fed anger. A lot of it. Evan crouched beside her. Whose anger? Her eyes dimmed. A human. One from this colony. I felt their imprint, their grief, their hatred. She hesitated, voice softening. They didn't just want power. They wanted revenge. Evan clenched his jaw. Revenge always left a trail, And too often it led to innocent people. Lyra's hands trembled around the sphere. I shouldn't have escaped, she said. I was being used to stabilize it. My energy keeps it calm, but I wasn't strong enough. Lyra, Evan's voice lowered. Someone trapped you. Someone used you. That's not your fault. She looked at him, startled by the certainty in his tone. But before she could respond, the sphere shivered. Once, twice, its glow flashing red. Lyra flinched. Its emotions are changing. Someone else touched it recently. Someone even angrier. Evan's heart dropped. There wasn't just one person behind this. Lyra slowly lifted her head. It's searching for them, she whispered. And if it finds the same emotion again, it will explode. Evan stood. Then we find them first. The entrance to the lower tunnels groaned open as Evan forced the old hatch aside. Cold air drifted out, thick with dust, oil fumes, and the faint hum of forgotten machinery. Lyra stepped in beside him, leaning slightly on the railing, her breath shaky but determined. These tunnels weren't built for people, Evan murmured. Lyra touched the wall with her fingertips. The metal vibrated softly beneath her hand. They were built for movement, she corrected. Machines remember more than people think. Evan exhaled a quiet laugh. If these machines remember the last guy who forgot to clean them, I'm doomed. Lyra almost, but not quite, smiled. The floor scrubber we passed earlier didn't like your boots. Figures. Their voices echoed gently as they descended. The deeper they went, the louder the humming became. Old drones sat in piles like sleeping insects. Abandoned loader bots hunched in dark corners, lifeless but still holding traces of old tasks. Lyra brushed her fingers across a dormant scout drone, and her shoulders tensed. This one is afraid, she whispered. Machines get afraid? Not the way you think. They store emotional residue, fear from the person who last touched them. Anger, panic, it lingers. Evan let out a slow breath. Someone really came through here in a bad mood. Lyra didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on the sphere in her arms. It had begun to glow more intensely, its pulse quicker, sinking with something deeper in the tunnels. We're getting closer, she said. Just then, the lights overhead flickered. A dull clang echoed in the distance, metal striking metal. Evan instinctively stepped in front of her. A cleaning bot wobbled around the corner, spinning in panicked circles. Lyra gasped softly. It was just attacked. By who? Before she could respond, her knees gave out. Evan caught her again, lowering her gently to the ground. You're burning yourself out, he said, voice tight. I have to keep the core calm, she insisted, gripping it tighter. If it senses more anger, we'll handle that part when we find whoever's behind this. She hesitated, then nodded weakly. But as Evan helped her stand, the core's glow shifted. Once bright, now darkening like storm clouds swallowing light. Lyra's eyes widened. It's recognizing someone's emotions, someone very close. Evan froze. They weren't alone in the tunnels. Evan tightened his hold around Lyra's arm as they moved toward the source of the echoing footsteps. The tunnel lights flickered once more, casting long, broken shadows across the concrete. Lyra's breathing hitched, and the core pulsed violently in her hands, as if warning her of something it already knew. A silhouette stepped out from behind an old generator. A tall man, grease-stained uniform, sharp, exhausted eyes. Evan felt his stomach drop. Ronan? The man lifted his head slowly. His expression wasn't angry. It was hollow. Didn't expect you to find me first, Ronan said, voice brittle. He glanced at Lyra, then at the glowing sphere. I see you brought my problem back to me. Lyra flinched. Evan stepped in front of her. What did you do? Evan demanded. Ronan let out a tired breath, running a hand through his unkempt hair. My son died last winter, he said. Faulty atmospheric pumps. Corporate ignored the warnings. I begged them to fix it. His voice cracked. They never listened. Lyra's fingers tightened around the core. It responded instantly, its pulse shifting to a deeper, anguished rhythm. Ronan looked directly at her. I needed leverage, something powerful enough to force the council to listen. I didn't want to hurt anyone, but I needed them to fear the consequences of their negligence. Evan stared at him, stunned. Fear won't bring your son back. Exactly, Ronan whispered. Nothing will. Lyra swallowed hard. You imprinted your grief onto the core? It's drowning in it. Ronan's jaw twitched. I never meant for her to escape. When I realized she was dying, I let her go. I thought maybe someone would help her. His eyes softened, guilty. I didn't think she'd come here. Lyra stepped forward shakily. You didn't free me, she said quietly. You abandoned me because you didn't want to watch me fall. The tunnel fell silent. Ronan's shoulders sagged. You're right. Evan studied him. This wasn't some cold-hearted villain. This was a broken father clinging to the one thing he could still control. But the core wasn't interested in excuses. It pulsed violently, emitting a sharp crackle that made the air vibrate. Lyra gasped, clutching her chest as the core responded to Ronan's growing anguish. Evan moved to shield her again. Ronan, stop! You're making it worse! But it was already too late. A deeper voice echoed from the far end of the tunnel, smooth, cold, familiar to Lyra in a way that made her blood run cold. You give humans too much credit, girl. Evan turned sharply. Lyra's eyes widened in horror. Her caretaker stood there, smiling. Lyra staggered backward as the tall, blue-toned figure stepped into the dim light. His ceremonial coat, once a symbol of her people's medical caste, now looked like a costume hiding something rotten beneath. Her caretaker, Eris, smiled the way someone might smile at a pet that finally learned to obey. Little Lyra, he said softly, you wandered far. Evan instinctively moved between them. Who the hell is this? Lyra's voice cracked. He raised me or pretended to. Eris's eyes glimmered. Pretended. My dear, I kept you alive longer than nature intended. He glanced at the Varel core. And now you've brought me exactly what I wanted. Ronan took a step back, confused. You? You're the one who... Eris waved a hand dismissively. Your grief was useful. I simply guided it. Lyra's breath hitched. You imprinted on the core, too. Of course, Eris replied. But unlike the human, my emotions have purpose. With the core's power, I will free our people from their dependence on these unstable colonies. A bold explosion blamed on humans. Wouldn't that unite the Varelians? Evan clenched his fists. You're starting a war. No, Eris corrected gently. I'm ending a long humiliation. Lyra shook her head, tears streaking across her glowing cheeks. You said I mattered. You said I wasn't broken. Eris's smile didn't soften. You don't break what was never whole. Something in Lyra shuddered. Not just pain, something deeper. A realization that the one person she trusted had shaped her entire life around convenience, not care. The core reacted instantly, surging with violent light. Evan grabbed her shoulders. Lyra, look at me, not him, me. Her trembling eyes lifted to his. You are not defective, he said firmly, and you're not his weapon. Eris moved forward, reaching for the core. But Ronan, haunted but not heartless, stepped between them. No more deaths, Ronan said quietly. Eris snarled. You think you can stop? He didn't finish. Lyra's body shone brilliantly, her energy rising not from fear, but from resolve. She stepped in front of Evan, facing Eris with a steadiness she'd never shown before. You wanted my weakness, she said, but it's the one thing you never understood. The core pulsed gently, no longer angry, no longer chaotic, mirroring her calm. My emotions aren't weapons, Lyra whispered. They're choices. Eris lunged. Lyra raised the core. A flash of brilliant light cut through the tunnel, silent but powerful, wrapping Eris, Ronan, Evan, and Lyra in its glow. When the light finally faded, nothing in the colony was the same. Not the machines, not the tunnels, and definitely not the hearts of those who survived. Lyra wasn't just the girl who couldn't play ball anymore. She was the one who chose hope over hatred and changed the fate of two worlds with a single act of courage.